Good morning, Bucknutters. It's Thursday, April 9th, 2015. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5. If it's Thursday, that means I am joined by 24/7 Sports Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong. Actually en route between recruiting destinations with a personal driver. Steve, how are you?
Good morning. On my way to East St. Louis. Going to see Edwardsville High School today, see some blue chippers in the 2017 class. Ohio State's already offered the receiver Jeff Thomas out of East St. Louis, who's high on the Buckeyes early in the process. And then I'm going to go see five-star defensive end A.J. Epinesa from Edwardsville, who's a guy that I think when it's all said and done will end up staying in Big Ten country or Missouri being closer to home, too. I think he ends up staying within a decent drive distance from home. And so if Ohio State were to make a move on A.J., who's up to 17 offers already, I think that the Buckeyes would have a shot to get A.J. on campus and go from there, certainly with what Ohio State's been able to do on the defensive line. What A.J. will be able to see how Joey Bosa develops, and then obviously Ohio State's got a chance to bring in arguably the best defensive line class in the country in this class with Terrell Hall, Nick Bosa, possibly Rashawn Gary, who made a recent visit, and I think the Buckeyes are in the top 2 or 3 for Rashawn Gary, player in the country in 2016. So we could talk about so many things, Dan. Ohio State recruiting, it's on the uptick everywhere.
Yeah, that's certainly not going to be met with any disgust from those listening to this podcast. One thing I do want to chat with you about is kind of a referendum on recruiting. Bill Curley put up a story yesterday on our site about Kareem Walker rescheduling his visit. Essentially, he will not be here for the spring game, and that caused a tidal wave of angst and opened the door for others to get in and possibly put up some clueless threads on other sites, even on ours, about Walker reconsidering. Bill has said it many times on the site now that he talked to Walker. Walker is still solid. Is this kind of a commentary on the way things are and how far we are out from signing day?
It's just typical recruiting stuff, really, at this point. And these young men that commit early, they always got it. Then the next question that they're going to get for the next month, whether it's from a coach, next several months, it's either from a college coach or a report. Are you solid? Are you solid? And it's kind of annoying to me. But on the flip side of that, nothing surprises me anymore. You know, we talked about Michael Weber, and I said for months on the Bucknuts Morning 5, hey, if he considers, even when Weber was saying he was solid and not taking visits, I was like, listen, it won't surprise me if he visits Michigan. It won't surprise me if he considers Michigan. My take on Kareem Walker is this. It's 10 months from signing day. I think he loves the Buckeyes. No question the Buckeyes love him. I think he's going to sign with Ohio State. But he visited Rutgers recently. And, you know, for me to say he's not going to visit anywhere over the next 10 months, I mean, that would kind of go against the grain with what we know about recruiting. but at the same time, he's got a great relationship with Urban Meyer, great relationship with Tony Alford. The Buckeyes absolutely love him. He loves the Buckeyes. Ezekiel Elliott, there's a chance that he leaves after this year. I would say most people would say there's a great chance he leaves after this year because he's arguably the best running back in the United States of America. But Kareem's going to see an opportunity to come in and make an early impact. Then you look at the recruiting class that Ohio State's putting together, and Kareem Walker sees him and a guy like DeMario McCall in the same recruiting class, and just the potential of the Thunder and Lightning that they could bring to the table together. I think Kareem Walker will be a Buckeye, but I know people get antsy, and that's the business of it. But for me to say Kareem Walker not going to take a visit over the next 10 months somewhere else, I don't know. I'm not going to say that.
The other prevailing storyline on the drama line here is quarterback Tristan Wallace or Jarrett Guarantano. There was some feeling after Guarantano visited this week that Ohio State may have pulled closer to Tennessee, which I believe has about 60% of his crystal ball right now. Do you see any changes there? Where do you ultimately expect Guarantano to end up? Or is it kind of up in the air right now?
I'm not even sure what my crystal ball is, if it's foggy or if I flipped it back to Rutgers when I thought Jarrett wasn't going to go to Ohio State for a minute. There was a time where I thought Jarrett was going to be a Buckeye, so there's no question he loves Ohio State, and I'm sure getting back to Columbus, rekindled some of that magic. But there's no doubt that Tennessee, he's got family connections there with his dad, knowing Butch Jones, and so they have a relationship in that regard. And then obviously Rutgers being close to home, and his dad having played at Rutgers. I guess I'll put it this way. I think Ohio State's in good shape. This isn't anything earth-shattering to get Tristan Wallace or Jarrett Guarantano. My 24/7 Sports crystal ball is the Buckeyes for the top 100 quarterback, Tristan Wallace. Jarrett Guarantano has been a top-of-the-board guy for Ohio State since the very beginning of the process. So he knows that he's been a priority recruit for Ohio State from the very beginning. And so they're in it, and I don't think they would have went back to Columbus if there wasn't something that they wanted to make sure of. So I think that you can't rule Ohio State out. Tennessee's been the trendy pick at this point, but Ohio State has certainly landed blue chippers when they weren't the trendy pick. Probably the most exciting blue chipper that Ohio State landed when they weren't the trendy pick was Vonn Bell. And that's still one of my favorite signing day moments, not to get off track, but I just know when Vonn Bell committed to Ohio State, that was a deal where the Ohio State coaching staff was, I don't think they saw that one coming. Maybe his lead recruiter did, but when I talked to some guys right after Vonn Bell committed to Ohio State on signing day that day 2 years ago, and I know that it was a very, very pleasant surprise. And so I know I got off track there, but my point is Ohio State should get Jarrett Guarantano. It's just, it sounds like the momentum's with Tennessee, but and I don't know if that visit this week did anything to change that.
Speaking of Vonn Bell, he's got a future in the CIA because after he has a glorious professional career, he didn't even let his family know who he was committing to. I remember that. That's one of the few shockers that you'll get on signing in. It worked out great, and the Alabama quarterback is not happy about it. But the best part about that was just that Vonn carried himself well through the process, and we've talked about this before. I'm all for people carrying themselves well through the process and being the same guy from the beginning to the end. And those are the guys that typically are successful in college too. And obviously Vonn's made some plays for the Buckeyes so far. No doubt, and I think this is going to be the year where he bursts himself onto the national scene. But we digress. Yes, the spring game is about 10 days away, and there'll be a long guest list for that. But there are some people coming to Columbus this weekend, the tight ends, kids from a Michigan school everyone's heard of. Kind of bring us up to speed on that.
Yeah, Terry Angeline, the nation's number 4 ranked tight end, according to 24/7 Sports, told me he will be at Ohio State on Saturday. He's coming up with his dad. They've been making the rounds this spring. They've been to Notre Dame, Michigan State, out to the West Coast to see USC, UCLA, Arizona State. They went down to Miami. That was their third visit to Miami. They're trying to set something up again with Penn State. Penn State's the 24/7 Sports crystal ball favorite for Angeline. I think Miami's a top contender for him. Ohio State, if they have one position of need in this class, and they've already addressed it, certainly with arguably the nation's tight end in Cincinnati Moeller, Jake Hausman, Terry Angeline would be a huge addition. Terry Angeline, you're 6'7", 230 pounds. He's got some Kyle Rudolph upside. That's who a lot of people on the next level have been comparing him to behind the scenes. The young man from Cincinnati Elder obviously went to Notre Dame and now plays in the league. Terry Angeline's got that kind of upside where when it's all said and done, he could be the number 1 ranked tight end in the country on 24/7 Sports. And so he'll be in Columbus this weekend. And then Detroit Cass Tech, Donovan Peoples-Jones kind of leads that crew. There's the other 2017s that I think Ohio State will eventually go on. Donovan Peoples-Jones is special. Ohio State was first to offer him. There's no question they're going to be in it till the end for him. He's the number 2 receiver in the country right now, according to 24/7 Sports. I think he's number 12 overall. The number 1 player in Michigan. He made the Sports Center top 10 this past week, jumping over 2 people and throwing down a nasty dunk. He's he is a very coveted prospect and a guy that there's no doubt the Ohio State staff will be happy to see again this weekend amongst his teammates.
That's a great way to end it, Steve. Travel safe. We'll check in with you next week to get all your report from the road.
Hey, Columbus, I'm sending all kinds of thunderstorms your way from Indianapolis right now, yesterday and today. So be safe.
It's spring in Ohio, man. We are ready for the gray. Peace.
Hey, thanks, Dan.